Hi everybody, and welcome back to Sew Along with Jan and part 2 of the September Kimberbell Mini Quilt. So we're going to be doing 3 more blocks in this video. We're going to be doing the small mushroom block, the leaf 2 block, and the house block. Now the house block is going to take a little longer because it has quite a lot of embroidery in it, and then it has quite a little bit of an applique. So that'll be the last one we do. But it does have quite a lot of like sewing at the beginning of it. It doesn't look like a hard block. It just has lots of applique and stuff. It's going to be really cool, I think. But we're going to be doing a couple of the small ones first. So we're going to start with this small mushroom block. And this is on page 10 of the instructions. So we're going to start with that. We need our background fabric. And then there's a little bit that's the mushroom stem. So I have that here. Let me get this off of here. I have mushroom stem. And then all of these have shape flecks on the back. So yeah, so both of these have the shape flecks on the back. So this is our background and our little stem. And then we're going to be using the embroidery leather again for the top of the mushroom. And I'm going to be doing the diamond pattern to get for this one. So give me just a second here. We'll bring up the design. This one's going to be in a 4x4 hoop. This is another one of those small blocks. So they'll end up being 2x2. Let me just check to make sure. Yes, 2x2. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get that diamond pattern again. So let's go over here and get the diamond pattern again for the quilting. So we'll start with our quilting pattern as usual. And let's see. Oops, got to find it. And that one is... be careful not to scroll past it. The pages, have you ever noticed that the pages scroll really fast? I have a really hard time with them, and it's Diamond 1 I'm using. Because I had that one. I didn't buy the set for this one. So, okay, so here's this one, and it says to use the vertical design again. So we'll use that same one we've been using. 2x2, gonna set that. And then we're going to add the small mushroom design. And these will be centered, it says in the instructions. And embroidery files, September. And then we need our little mushroom. Here's our mushroom. Okay, so those are centered. The Brother and Baby Lock machines automatically center the designs when they come in. I'm going to hit embroidery. And then we're going to start with our quilting just as usual here. So give me a second. Go back over here. Got my book in the way. We'll get that out of the way. I've got my 4x4 hoop back in, my no-show mesh in the hoop. And I've got my bobbin thread in the bobbin. And I'm going to start out with this yellow. I use this, it's called Fashion Glow, that matches the yellows in the Kimberbell fabrics pretty well. So that's what I've got in the needle to do my quilting with. So we'll do that first. So let me get started here. Step number 1 will be our placement line for the batting. Oops. Helps, Jan, if you thread the machine. Have you ever done that? That you're just going to start the machine and it's like, oh, well, you know, maybe you should thread it. We'll just back up. Going to hit the negative positive needle over here and back up to the beginning. There we go. All right, we're going to do our placement line. I got to find my batting, though. Where did that end up? Here it is. I took a little break for lunch in between the videos here, so I moved things around and couldn't find my batting. Here we go. All right, so now we're going to lay the batting down, and then we're going to tack that down with step number 2. So all the quilting designs are in the same order always. Tack this down and then we'll trim our batting. It's kind of fun to do these little blocks. It's nice to be able to get a 4x4 hoop out every now and then. All right, so we're going to trim this down. Trim the batting. Again, this is Hobbs 80/20 batting. And if you don't have a pair of these scissors, I love these scissors. These are the Ginger 6-inch double curved scissors. and they work so well. And I do have them on the website, so I'll put a link to the scissors too. But these are awesome scissors. All right. So now step number 3 is going to be the placement line for our fabric. Nope, didn't pick up the bobbin thread. Nope, we'll just try her again. If that happens to you, and I've noticed that it happens to me more often now with my pre-wound bobbins, you should be using the tighter bobbin case. And I've noticed that when I'm sewing on batting, or excuse me, just stabilizer, sometimes the bobbin cases are very tight for these pre-wound bobbins, and sometimes the bobbin thread just doesn't pick up. So if that happens to you, what I do is I just reset my bobbin, but I don't cut it off over here. See how I've got the thread on here? I'm just going to leave that long string on there. Let's back up. I'm going to hit the negative positive needle again and back up to the step number 3, because you can see it didn't catch. And then I just, oops, second here, there we go. I try it again, and normally it catches the second time because it just needs sometimes, you know, it really does a really, oops, must have needed to rethread my upper thread too. We'll give her another whirl. All right. But sometimes it just doesn't pick up that bobbin thread. So if that happens, just try doing this little trick and see. Now it did. But I have trouble with the pre-wounds because the bobbin case that you should be using is the dotted bobbin case. It either has a pink or blue dot. It's a little tighter, and sometimes it just doesn't pick your bobbin thread up when you are sewing on just stabilizer especially. All right, so we're going to put our fabric in here. Let's see, how do I want this? I don't think it really matters. Let's try that. That looks sort of like it's the upside. All right, so I'm going to kind of center that in there, and we're going to do step number 4, which will tack this down. This is going to be the little mushroom. And see, when you put the fabric in there, it doesn't do it, but it's usually the stabilizer. So that's what I do. I just reset my bobbin, and then I don't cut the bobbin thread off, and it just has something more to hang on to. All right, so now it's going to do step number 5, which is going to be that little diamond quilting pattern. And I got to see what the next step is. I think we start with the stem. So the applique is going to start with the stem. So my stem is this little light colored, kind of creamy colored fabric. And so I'm going to put that color of thread in. And it's one of my ivories, and this is 1267. Brother has a couple of ivories. They actually call it ivory. The other one's a little more yellow. So I have that one out too, because one of my background fabrics is a little bit more yellow than this one is. This one's more, you know, more brown, I guess would be the best way. All right, so now we're going to do the first step in the instructions on page 10 is stitch the stem placement line. So that's what we're going to do here. So I got my ivory in there, and I'm getting and all of these, this one also has shape flex, and so did this on the back. So we're going to put this down over the top here. And then, yeah, so then we're going to do the tack down line for this one. And this one's a little bit directional, so I'm going to make sure I don't get it lopsided. This is really cute. I'm looking forward to doing the rest of these blocks. The acorns and the mushroom, I think, have a little bit of like the foam, the flex foam in there to give them a little dimension. But I don't think the house does. But I think it has some vinyl on the windows to make them look more like windows. All right, so we're going to trim this off. And then I think the next step is going to be the satin stitches for this. So we'll trim this, and then I'll start the satin stitches, and then we'll come back and start working on the top of the little mushroom. All right, so we're ready for satin stitches. Okay, so I got my satin stitches around my little stem. The next step is step number 4 on page 10, and this is going to be the placement line for our embroidery leather. I put my bronze thread back in again, and this is going to be raw edge applique again. So it's just going to do the little top of the mushroom here, and then we're going to lay this down. I did not cut this embroidery leather. I'm just laying it on here. I figured that way I could, use less of it, so I just lay it on here. Sometimes I cut it and sometimes I don't. I didn't this time. So then the next step is going to be the tack down. So I laid my embroidery leather down. And it's going to be, triple stitch. So this is going to be raw edge applique. And it says to trim the leather as desired, and it's raw edge applique. So that's the next thing we're going to do. I think I've got a little tail here. Get that out of there first. Okay, so then when we trim this, again, we want to kind of tip the scissors, because we don't want to see that kind of tannish color, because if you angle them too much, you're going to see that kind of light tan color on the top. So, and I'm trimming pretty close, maybe 1/8 of an inch or less. So, and then you just want to take your time, because you want this also to look really nice since it's raw edge. So I'm just going to tip my scissors towards me. I always have a little trouble on these sides. There we go. So I'm just going to try to keep the scissors tipped so you'll have a straight cut on the edges. It does help to pull up a little bit on the edges. Because then you can get a hold of it a little better. All right, there we go. It looks pretty good. So there's a little mushroom. I like the embroidery leather. That's really pretty. I like this color. All right, so then the next step, is just the last step. It's going to be another one of those trimming lines. So I'll just leave my bronze in here to do that. It'll just do this little trimming line. And then we're going to move on to the second block, which is going to be a little leaf. And it's going to be done with the embroidery leather too. So we're going to do that on this brown piece. So this is leaf 2. So the background has the shape flex on it again. And then we're going to be using the bronzy colored embroidery leather for it. There we go. There's our little mushroom. Isn't that cute? There's going to be a bigger one in there too. All right, so there's our mushroom. So give me a second. I'll get set up and we'll move on to the second leaf. Okay, so we're ready to do the leaf 2. And since we already have the little diamond quilting design in there, I'm going to show you how. I'm not going to take all of this out and start from scratch. I'm going to go ahead and just return and delete the design, because I don't want the mushroom again, but I do want to leave the embroidery, the quilting file in here, because we're going to use the same one. It says to use diamond 3, but I had diamond 1. And now we're going to go get the leaf 2. So I'm going to hit add again. So I took out the little mushroom. I'm going to hit add. And then I'm going to go back and find it here, the other little leaf. Let's see, September, and it's this leaf 2. Yes, leaf 2, so this one. And it's 2.5 by 2.5, and again, this one comes in centered, so we want everything centered. We're going to hit set. So see, we didn't have to delete everything. We could just start with the next one. I'm going to hit embroidery. Okay, so now this one, we're going to start again with our quilting. Now this one, I'm going to be quilting with my brown, I think. So I need to find my brown that matches my background. This looks nice with it. Don't think I have, the other one's a little too light, I think. Well, I think either one would be fine. I think I'll go with the darker one. So we're going to do this darker brown. And I think they use that also in the, let me check little colors here. I think that they use that same brown in as part of the leaf as well. So I think it's the dark brown. Yes, so it's the dark brown. And then we're going to use the bronze color again on the embroidery leather. I've got my shape flex on the back of this one as well. All right, so we're going to get that. I've got to do, where did my brown go? Here it is. Okay, so we'll put the brown in, and we're going to do all the quilting and tack downs and stuff with the brown here. So the first step, as usual in our quilting, will be the placement line for the batting. So we're going to do step number 1 in the brown. And then I got to find my batting. And then we're going to lay our whoops here. I spend most of my life picking up thread off the floor. I just dropped thread all over the floor. Just a second here. All right. So we're going to put this up here and get some of the lint off of it. I always have thread everywhere in my sewing room. All right, so we're going to lay our batting down and do the tack down line, which is step number 2. And then we're going to move on, we're going to trim this. These little ones sure don't take very long, do they? This makes everything move along. Now the next one's going to take us a while. There's a lot of embroidery in this next one. So I'll probably do part of the embroidery. We'll go through the colors together, and I'll go through and do the embroidery because there's a whole bunch of embroidery before you do the applique in the house blocks. So I'll probably do that off camera. But we'll go through the colors and everything so you know what to do. All right, so we're going to trim this. Okay, and then step number 3 is going to be, oops, stop jiggling the camera, Jan, is going to be our placement line for the fabric. See if it'll catch the bobbin thread this time. Yep, did that time. Get our fabric ready here. Okay, so we'll get this laid on here. And this is a little bit directional as well, so I'm going to try to keep it from being lopsided here. All right, lay that down. Step number 4 is going to be the tack down line for that. And then we will do the quilting. And step number 5 is the quilting. This one's going to be, yeah, the diamond one. So, all right, so this one won't take very long. We'll do the quilting in the same color, and then I think I'm going to move to the rusty color, the bronze, because that's what you use for the embroidery leather. Get my embroidery leather up here. It's quite warm outside today. This is a Sunday afternoon, and I'm looking up at my clock, and it's or my weather station. It says it's 126 degrees out on my doorstep, which I'm sure it is. The sun gets very hot in the afternoon. Okay, so we're going to put our bronze back in, and this will be the placement line, and this is step number 1 on page 12 of the actual design then, since we've already done the quilting. All right, so step number 1 is going to be the placement line to put our embroidery leather down. And this is going to also be raw edge applique. It's not very big, it's just a little tiny leaf. Okay, so then we're going to put this up, see if we can use up most of this little corner here. There we go. Okay, that's why I don't normally cut it. I just hang on to it, and then I don't have to use so much of it. All right. And this is step number 2. That's going to do the little leaf, and then we're going to trim our leaf like we have. And then there is a darker brown that they're going to do some of the detail with. So we're going to trim this. And again, this one we want to trim it and tip the scissors so we get a nice flat trim here. Let's see if I can get it in started. Usually once I get it started, I'm okay. There we go. But if you turn your scissors down, then you don't have then you'll probably see some of that tan that's on the back, and you don't really want to see that. Okay. There's one side of it. Let's turn it this way. And tip my scissors back. Got one little spot I need to fix on the other side, it looks like. I struggle with the embroidery leather. It is hard to cut, and you don't want it, you want it to look really nice on the edges. But I've got one spot that I must have tipped my scissor back a little bit, and it's kind of showing that tan right there. There, that looks better. There's a little spot right here too. Yeah, some of the backings are very white, and like this one's very light tan compared to that bronzy color. So, okay, so there's our leaf. Now the next step is 3, and it says the leaf detail, and they do it in the darker brown again. So let me get my dark brown again. And this is actually Nestles 0145. It's the same color I used for the quilting. So I'll put this back in to do the little stems. And then I think I'm going to put this bronze back in because we need that trimming line. I think that's the last step. And I want to be able to see the trimming line a little better. So we'll put that bronzy color back in. Well, it's going to be pretty with the brown in there. I like that. It's going to be it's a triple stitch. Okay. And then I'm going to put this bronze back in for that last step just to give me that more visible line for the trimming. And we're going to be done with another block already. I have to say the house probably is going to take a little longer than these have, but this has been good because it's nice to have smaller blocks sometimes, isn't it? They don't take so long. There we go. Oh yeah, I should be able to see that okay. All right. There's our little leaf. All right, we're ready for the third block of this video, and I'll have to check the sizes, but there's our little leaf. Isn't it cute? All right, so we got that ready. Now the next one is going to be that house, so it's going to take us a little while. Let's look at the colors here. So this one has a lot of applique, and it does say to put fusible backing on the back of the wrong sides of all the fabrics. So in other words, put shape flex on the back of all your fabrics. I have a kind of a light, kind of a creamy color for the background. And let's see. This one I'm going to use that autumn quilting design again. But then a lot of these, the whole first part of it, like the first 8 colors, is all this pretty foliage around the outside of the tree. So we'll go through that in a minute. I'll go get my hoop ready and we'll do the quilting, and then we'll go through the colors here, and I'll probably do all of these colors here off camera because there's just a lot of stitching. And then it looks like they did the dark brown, the orange color, and then one of the golds, that kind of taupey color, and then dark brown again. So we'll go through those colors to make sure we get them correct. Okay, so I'll be right back after I get my hoop ready, and I think we, excuse me, I think we need the 8x8 hoop because it's going to be 6.5 by 6.5 again. This is another one of those, if you have Embroidery Tool Shed Plus, that you can take those last couple of outlines out of the embroidery or the quilting design. So this is, I'm going to get my 8x8 hoop again for this. So I'll be right back and we'll start the house. Okay, so we're all ready for the house block. This is on page 13 of the instructions. And all of these pieces need the shape flex on the back. So I have, this is part of the roof. Got the roof and chimney and door, roof, chimney and door, the brown. And then I've got a couple of different yellows that are going to be the house. And then this is going to be the windows and part of the door maybe. The white, the kind of light creamy color. And then I've got a light background here for the background. And then you also need some clear vinyl. So I've got my little piece of clear vinyl that came in my embellishment kit here. And I think that's what we need. So I've got all these fabrics and they all have the shape flex on the back. So we'll put those in, except for the vinyl, of course. All right, so let's go ahead. And I'm going to use the quilting. I'm going to do in that I think I'm going to do the quilting in that ivory color, which is 1267, I think. Yeah, 1267. So I'm going to get that ready in my needle for my background quilting. I picked a couple of different like ivory colors because one of my colors was a little darker than the other one. So, all right, and then let's see. This one we're going to do, it still calls for house 3, but I'm going to use autumn 1 for the quilting. So we'll do our quilting first, of course. I'm going to go get my quilting design first. Oh, let's see. Autumn 1 is what I'm using for this one. This is the one with the pretty little, with the little acorns and stuff. It's really cute. Oops, got the wrong folder. How about embroidery files, block by block. All right, so this one needs to be 6 by 6, it says. So this is a bigger one again. 6 by 6, here it is. This will be really pretty. Okay, and I'm going to hit add, and we're going to go get the house block. Find the right ones. September. And then here's the house. So it's going to come in sideways, and that's the way it shows in the picture in the book. And the files are centered, so they automatically will come in centered, so we're good. I'm going to hit and edit and embroidery, so I think we're ready. So we're going to do our quilting. All right, so let's get our quilting done here. Get this out of the way. We have to do our first step, as usual, will be the placement line for the batting. And I am using an 8 by 8 hoop. Since this design came up 6.5 by 6.5. And then we will put our batting down. I like this fabric. I had forgotten I had this fabric. It has kind of a neat little marble on it. Okay, so we'll put our little chunk of batting up here. Get this laid down. Oops, I got a bunch of little strings on here. All right. And then step number 2 will be the tack down line for our batting. Keep it from getting wrinkly on me here. I don't know, I might be able to get the whole thing out of this little chunk of batting. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to or not. I just had a little small piece laying on top of my box in the other room, and that's what I grabbed, and I thought, oh, it may not be enough, but I think it might be. Because most of the blocks are not very big that we're doing, so. I've enjoyed these little mini quilts, though. I'm so glad to have something to put in that frame every month now in my living room, so this will be great. Okay, so there's our tack down for our batting. We'll trim that. Oops. Too many pieces of stabilizer here. Here we go. Get this trimmed. And then we will do the third step is always the placement line for the fabric. This one says it's going to take 42 minutes, so I'll do a little bit of this off the camera just because it's a lot of stitching. So as usual, the neighbor has decided to mow as I'm doing my videos. You know how it works. Okay, so we're going to do step number 3, and this will be the placement line for the fabric. Put that on here. Oh, it even caught this time. It doesn't do that very often. The only time I really notice that it doesn't catch the bobbin thread is when I'm sewing just on stabilizer. Okay, get my fabric ready here. Try to get that centered over the batting here. And these are the 2 lines that you would be removing if you needed to do this in a 6x6 hoop. If you have some software, you can just take the line we just did and the next line off, and then you would be able to do them in a 6x6 hoop, or a 6x10 hoop. So, all right. So let's go ahead and do step number 4 and tack this down, and then we will do the quilting. And remember, the house is actually going to be sideways in the hoop. I haven't figured out exactly why they did that. They wouldn't have had to. But it came in that way anyway. That's the way it shows in the picture too. All right, so there's our tack down. And then the next step is going to be the quilting. So I'll get it started, and then I'll turn the camera off for a minute while this is quilting. It takes a little bit. And then we'll come back and go through the colors of the first steps in the design, which are all going to be embroidery, just embroidery before we do any applique. And then I will do those off camera. Okay, so there's that pretty, oh my gosh, isn't that the prettiest quilting design? I love that, with the acorns, and it has leaves and little swirls in it. Okay, so this is the part that I'm going to do off camera, and there's a whole bunch of embroidery. So the first 8 steps are going to be just embroidery. So the first step is going to be that dark brown, and I'm using my Nestles for that. And the next 2 steps are going to be done with the orange. So I have Almond for my orange. It's 1118, because that's the kind of the color of the fabric is more a little bit, it's not as bright orange. And then there's one of the golds, the lighter golds. So I have Golden Hair as my light gold. And then it has that kind of taupe color. So I have, for that color, I have Warm Gray, $3.99. It's kind of a taupe. And then the last color in the step number 8 is going to be that dark brown again. So I'm going to do all these steps before I come back on. We'll get started here. And then we're going to start with the applique on the house. So I'm going to start with my dark brown. So get the dark brown in here, and then I will come back once I have all of these little sewn steps done. This is all the little kind of foliage and stuff underneath the house. So it'll take a little bit to do that. And the first color is the dark brown. So when I get all of these steps done, steps 1 through 8, I will be back and we will do the applique parts of the house. Okay, so I got steps number 1 through 8 done on all this embroidery. Isn't that beautiful? I love the colors. So the next step is going to be step number 9, and we're going to be doing the placement line for one of the house parts. So I did put my yellow thread in. I think it's called Fashion Glow, and that's going to be I think it's the side placement line, so I think it's this one. So it's going to be a placement over here. So I went ahead and put my yellow in. They're going to do the 2 pieces of the house first. So I did the placement line, step number 9, and then step number 10, we're going to tack this down. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in like that. Oops. Ugh, if I can get it pushed in there. Okay. And we're going to tack it down, and then it says trim close to the stitches. So then we'll turn the page. This was on the bottom of page 13. Now we're into the applique mode here. Okay, so it's going to go around it twice, then we'll trim. And then the front of the house is going to be the other yellow that I have here. And I'll just leave that same yellow in. I think that's the one I'm going to use for the satin stitching. I used a little bit darker one in the leaves up here, so I kind of wanted the yellow one, the lighter one for the house, I think. So we're going to trim this. These all have shape flecks on them also. Oh my gosh, aren't those leaves and stuff pretty? What a neat block. Okay, so we'll get that. And then the next one is going to be the front of the house here. And that's going to be this darker golden yellow one. So this one here is going on the front. And this is step number 11 on the top of page 14. And do the same thing. So we're going to lay our piece on. Looks like I got a piece of dark. I got a piece of dark thread in here that I don't want. There we go. All right, so I'm going to lay this in here like this. Now this is a little bit directional, so I'm going to make sure that I get it pretty straight. Okay, and then we're going to stitch that down with number 12, and then we'll trim that one. And then it looks like we're going to do the, the chimney, the doors, so it's going to be the brown is the next one. So we got to get all these applique pieces on now. How pretty. Yeah, but I think the trim is kind of that off-white color. That'll be really pretty. Oh, I got one of those tight hoops. All right, so we'll trim this one. And then I think the next one is going to be the brown for the roof and the doors and that kind of stuff. Okay, so we got that part on. And then the placement line for the doors and stuff, and that's going to be brown. Change to my brown here. Oops, I think I've got thread over the camera. There we go. Just change to my brown. This is the darker brown. We'll do the placement lines for these so we know where the fabric needs to go. And this is the fabric that's going to be on my roof and stuff. Roof, door, and chimney, I guess. And this is step number 13 and 14 we're doing now on page 14. Trying to see what the next step is. Oh, it's the windows, so that's the lighter color. So yeah, so our little chimneys over here, the roof, and then the door is going to be down here. They gave you one big piece for that. All right. So there's our placement lines. Then we're going to lay our fabric down. Make sure we cover all that stuff up so we can get that all covered, and then we're going to do our tack down stitches. And then, let's see, I think this one I'm going to use that cream color, that ivory. It's going to probably go around this one twice. Trying to keep my colors up here that I used so I remember what I used. Do the little chimney. I just really like the leaves and stuff on the edges. It's so pretty. I was going to do the roof. And then we'll trim those. Oh, just broke the needle. All right, so give me a second. I've just broken needle, so I have to turn the camera off for a second to change it. Be right back. Okay, got the needle change, so now we can move on to the next little spot here. Sorry about that. You know, sometimes that happens. I think my thread got stuck up on my thread spool. Sometimes they get a little tight. The threads will get tight like when they get down here at the bottom, and it'll just catch enough to break the needle. I think that's what it did. All right, so now we're going to trim. All right, this is going to be so pretty. Really like this one. All right, so we'll get the roof and the chimney. Oh, I wondered where the other half part of the needle is. There it is, right there. It was on my scissors. And I knew it was around here someplace. I couldn't find it. Figured it just fell on the floor, but guess what? It didn't. All right, so we'll trim all these. And then I think the next one is going to be the windows. Yes, the windows. So trim all this. Whoops. Let's get the little bottom part here. I was anxious to do this one. There's one other one that looks like it's going to be really cool. There's a mushroom and the little acorns. Those are the last two blocks. And those are really cool. Just lost my fabric on the floor. You guys have as much trouble with things landing on the floor as I do. It seems like I'm constantly digging around under my sewing table for something. And today it's the fabric. Just a moment, I'll be back. Had to completely stick my head under the table. It was way back there. All right. So now we're going to do, this is the window. So I'm going to put my light colored, my kind of creamy color in. Oh my goodness, this is that one of those hoops I have that's so tight. Okay, we'll put this ivory. This is 1286. Sorry, 1267. For the windows, so I have to get our placement lines on first. Okay. Then, and I think this one too, yeah, we're going to do vinyl too, but not till towards the end. We'll do the white first and then the vinyls towards the end. Get our fabric ready here. I think there's 3 windows. Get the little tail sticking up here. Little window up here. And they give you one nice piece. I've got all these little strings though. Okay. Let's get these out of our way. There we go. Gonna make sure I cover that one. Get all of our little windows covered here. And then we're going to stitch those down. And this is step number 16. And then we're going to start doing the satin stitches and stuff next. So I'll get the satin stitches and the doorknob. So it's going to start with the yellow, the next step. Stop here a second and get this tail before it gets caught into something else. Come on, stop. Thank you. There. So then we'll get that. We'll get these trimmed, and then we're going to be ready for satin stitching. So we're getting towards the end here. It just takes a little while when you have all these appliques in here. All right, so we're going to trim this. Close to the stitches. This will be our little windows. What a cute block. I love the foliage. I like fall. I'm always looking forward to fall because then it cools down. I get tired of listening to the air conditioner all the time. It's so warm in my sewing room all the time, and I always look forward to the fall and the winter when it's more comfortable in here. The sun gets very warm in here in the afternoon. All right, going around the little window here. Okay, so we got all the windows done. So the first satin stitching is going to be the yellow. So I'm going to put in my light, I think I want to do the lighter yellow on this one. So that's that Fashion Glow. I think I want that for the outline. Even though the one yellow is darker, I think I want that one instead of the darker one. All right, so we'll put that in. And this is step number 17 on page 14. And this will be the satin stitching on the house. So I'll be back when this is done, and then we'll move on to the roof and the chimneys and stuff. Okay, so we got the yellow around the house, and then the next section is going to be the brown for the roof and the chimney and part of the roof, the chimney, and the door, it looks like. So I'll get my brown on here and be ready to do the next section. And then we're going to move on, I believe, to the windows. Okay, so off, ready to do the roof here. Okay, so I've got my brown outlines done on the door and so on, and the next part is going to be the ivory, so it'll do the windows, and I think it'll do part of the gable, like on the house, and the door, around the door here. So the next part is the ivory, the 1267 I think it is, and then we will need to put, we're going to be putting our vinyl on the windows here in a moment. After this is done, we'll put the vinyl on the windows. Okay, so I got my windows, the satin stitches on my windows and around the gable here. And now that we're going to put the vinyl on the windows. So there's clear vinyl here, and I'm going to be careful to get it covered because we have to cover this little window and these two windows here. And I am going to go ahead, I like to tape the vinyl down because it has a tendency, it's so slippery, so I like to tape it down. So I am going to tape it with a little Kimberbell tape here. And then we're going to, I'm going to leave that same color in, and it's going to do stitch around the windows and put the vinyl on here. It's just going to do a triple stitch, and then we'll do the last step, which will be a decorative, some decoration and eaves and stuff on the windows. And that'll be done in the dark brown. So here's the vinyl, and then we'll trim our vinyl. Getting almost done with this one. This one took a little while. It had lots of stitching in it. The last 3 blocks, we're actually going to do 4 in the last video. The 2 just need to be quilted, so those will be very quick. And then the other 2 are some applique, but they're not as long as this one was. So, all right, so it's going around all of our windows. Oh, that's right, it's going to do this window too. I didn't see that on the screen. So the little window above the door there, and then it's going to do this round one. And then we'll trim our vinyl off. I'm going to trim fairly close to the stitches on that. All right. Makes it look like real windows. Okay, so we'll do the trimming on these. Okay, and then the last step will be the finishing on the windows decorations. So let me get the tape off here. So again, with this vinyl, what I do is I kind of use my satin stitch to help me keep straight trimming my vinyl, the edges of my satin stitch. That's what I use to help me to trim it. Keeps it straight. And I think I'm going to flip it around this way to take this tape off so I can get the rest of this rectangular window here. Okay, and whoops, got a string hanging. It's easier for me to work from right to left. So I Might be swinging it around so you can see. But I like to kind of use the, satin stitches to help me keep my vinyl looking straight when I trim it. There we go. We're making progress now. Here we go. Got that one. Got this side. Okay, here we go. Then the bottom. Okay. I think I did a very good job on that one. Did I get it? Yeah, I think I got it. Okay. And then do this one. I think I have to do the bottom yet. Like that. Looks pretty good. And then these two little ones. There's not really any satin stitches on this one, so you just have to kind of wing it there for the trimming. I'm trimming pretty close. Get the string out of the way. I'm going to trim kind of in between, I think, the satin stitches and the door, or the little window there, I think, to keep it. There we go. Doing the vinyl is a little tricky. I'm kind of tipping my scissors again straight up like I did for the embroidery leather. You're trying to keep, and this is raw edge, of course, so you want to try to keep it pretty smooth, you know, on the edges. This one we got some satin stitches to help us with the trimming here. Trimmed all the way around. And I'm going to go back and check that one down below there to see if I got it. Yeah, looks pretty good. And oh yeah, I have kind of a little funny spot right down here. I'll see if I can get that trimmed up. There we go. All right. So there are our windows. And then let's see, I think I did pretty well with them. I usually have a little trouble making them a little wide sometimes. Just cut just a little bit off of that. I think there need just to be a little off of this too. There we go. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, so then the last step is I'm going to go back to the brown, and we will do the decorative, a little bit of decorative edging on the windows here, and then we'll be ready to do all of our trimming on all three of our blocks. So I'll be back when this is done, and then we will move on to the trimming. All right, oops, I got a little piece of plastic in there. All right, I'll be back when this is done, and we'll move on to the trimming. Okay, so I finished up the house. Isn't that beautiful? I love the colors. I just love fall colors. So it did these, the last step was this little thing on the windows here. Isn't that pretty? So now we're going to do the trimming on all three of these blocks. I got my two little ones here. We'll do those. We'll do this one first, and then we'll do those. Let's see, I got to find my ruler here. So I need an orange pop ruler, and this one's going to be 6.5 by 6.5. Got my Martelli mat here. So I'm going to line up the little basting line that goes around my block. And then I got to find my rotary cutter. Where did it end up? Here it is. So I'm going to turn this, and I'm going to go into the corner. I'm going to go just ahead of the corner, I should say. I'm going to push in. I'm going to pull back into the corner. It helps me if I do that instead of just starting in the corner. So I kind of push down, pull back into the corner. Just take your time with the orange pop rulers. Again, it's a little awkward at first, but once you get the hang of it, they work so slick. All right, all the way around that, 6.5 by 6.5. Oh my gosh, isn't that a beautiful block? I just love all the colors, the fall colors in it. So there's that one. And then the other two are going to be trimmed like the other small ones that we did. Let me find my, oops, I got to reach my ruler here. Just a minute. So we're going to use a regular ruler for these, and these had the little trimming line. So again, I'm going to use that line that I put in here, and I'm going to put my 2.5 inch marks on 2 of the lines there. Get it all lined up, and then I'm going to just cut up one side and this side first, and then I'm going to turn it and do the same thing. I'm going to put everything down on my 2.5 inch marks here. Get it all lined up, and then trim the other 2 sides. There we go. So there's our little leaf. That's cute. And then here's the little mushroom. So we'll do the same thing. I've got my marks there. So I'll put my 2.5 inch mark of my ruler on here. Get that all lined up. Go up one side and the top here. And I'll turn it and do the same thing. Line it up with my 2.5 inch. So these are 2.5 inches. There we go. And across the top. And there's the little mushroom. Aren't those darling? So now we've got 3 more blocks here. We have 4 more blocks to do. 2 that are going to be embroidered and have a lot of applique, and then the other 2 are going to be just filler blocks that we're just going to quilt those. So I will be back for the 3rd video, and we'll do some more blocks, and we'll be done with all the blocks already. I can't believe it. They're going very quickly, and they've been really fun. So thank you so much for joining me for video number 2, part 2 of the September Kimberbell Mini Quilt, and I will be seeing you soon in part 3 where we'll do some more blocks. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do. I would really appreciate it. So along with Jan on YouTube. Also, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video and if you learned something new. So thanks everybody, and I'll see you in part 3. Bye-bye.